In the year 2056, the Earth is a shadow of its former self. The environment has collapsed and the air outside is toxic. Only the wealthy can afford to live in air domes, which filter the polluted atmosphere. Governments have fallen, replaced by powerful corporations that rule with their private armies. Space exploration, once seen as humanity's last hope, has failed. The only remaining extraterrestrial research base, Rubicon, is owned by the Nebra Corporation. It's humanity's final chance to find a solution to the environmental crisis. One day, Nebra sends Commander Hannah, a tough military officer, and Gavin, a skilled chemist, to Rubicon aboard the Navicon shuttle. Their mission is to check on the station's progress, but as they approach Rubicon, something goes wrong. The station isn't where it's supposed to be. Hannah, a seasoned pilot, has to perform a risky maneuver to dock the shuttle. The crew of Rubicon is baffled, blaming the Navicon's navigation systems for the error. They're also uneasy about Hannah's military background, evident from the chip on her neck. Hannah requests a report to understand why the Navicon lost its course. While waiting, she tours the station, inspecting the algae farm that provides air and food for the crew. Later, she retreats to her room and calls her sister, Knopf, who is also in the military. Both grew up poor and joined the army for the paycheck. Their conversation is cut short when Knopf is called away to handle an emergency. That evening, the Rubicon crew gathers for a toast. Most of them are set to return to Earth now that Hannah and Gavin have arrived to replace them. 3 more replacements are expected soon. The head of the research team, Dr. Dimitri, is friendly and invites everyone to play cards. But his son, Danilo, is hostile toward Gavin, accusing him of coming from a wealthy family that lived safely in a dome. Hannah steps in before the argument escalates. Later, Hannah reviews the crew's report. The flight route for the next day has been changed due to a strange fog cluster in the northern hemisphere, directly over a city known for its green activist groups. Hundreds have already died, and Gavin is visibly upset. He used to be part of that activist group. Hannah approves the new flight route and goes after Gavin, who has fled to the communications room. He's trying to access Earth's news reports but fails. Hannah offers to use her direct line to Nebra for information, but Gavin refuses, distrusting corporate intel. The next day, the crew departs, leaving only Dimitri, Gavin, and Hannah behind. Danilo takes some mother cultures with him, as requested by Nebra. Dimitri assures everyone the cultures will survive the trip, but his behavior seems off. After the crew leaves, Hannah contacts her superiors, suspecting the mother cultures have been tampered with. Nebra dismisses her concerns and orders her to prepare the Icarus Plan, a secret project, within days. Hannah is tasked with studying Dimitri's algae system, which provides air and food, but Dimitri is always nearby, preventing her from examining it closely. Later, they receive a distress message from the departing crew. They're lost in space, unable to contact any base on Earth. Hannah tries to reach ground control but gets no response. She suspects a problem with the station's optical unit and decides to spacewalk to inspect it. But before she can act, the crew's screams echo through the intercoms. They're burning up, and the connection cuts out. When Hannah looks back at Earth, she sees it engulfed in a brown fog. Back inside the station, Hannah tries again to contact ground control, but there's no answer. Dimitri mourns his son, while Hannah finds a message from Knopf on her personal tablet. Knopf explains that Earth is in chaos, and military units are being called back to evacuate people to bunkers. 2 days pass with no contact from Earth. Gavin analyzes the atmosphere, trying to understand the fog. It's toxic, spreading faster than anything natural should. Dimitri locks himself in his room, refusing to speak to anyone. Hannah works on building a new radio from old parts she finds around the station. She's interrupted when Gavin starts acting strangely. The computer has finished analyzing Earth's atmosphere, and the results horrify him. He tries to harm himself, but Hannah and Dimitri intervene, performing CPR to save him. Dimitri treats Gavin in the infirmary, though he seems indifferent to whether Gavin lives or dies. Hannah confronts Dimitri, accusing him of hiding information about the algae system. Dimitri admits he's been secretive, fearing Hannah is spying for Nebra. He insists the project is his and Danilo's, not Nebra's. When Gavin wakes up, he rushes to the computers and shares his discovery. The fog is toxic, meaning everyone on Earth is dead. Overwhelmed, Gavin has a panic attack, and Dimitri sedates him. Dimitri assures Hannah they're safe on the station, thanks to the successful algae project. They'll have air and food for a long time, but Hannah isn't ready to give up. She continues working on the radio, hoping to find survivors in the domes. After another spacewalk to redirect the antenna, she tries the radio again. Still, there's no answer. Gavin wakes up to a world shrouded in fog. He thinks the fog might be caused by gases released from melting permafrost, something environmentalists have warned about for years. Some people might still be alive in bunkers with oxygen tanks, but Gavin knows they'll die too once their supplies run out. He hates the idea of living forever in a metal space station with only two other people, Hannah and Dimitri. But Dimitri stops him from doing anything reckless by reminding him that if Gavin dies, the system will fail, and they'll all die. The station's life support system is designed for 6 people, but it can barely function with 3. Gavin reluctantly agrees to stay alive. Over time, Gavin and Hannah grow closer. They bond over their shared frustration, feeling like they wasted their lives training for a mission that has failed. One night, they find comfort in each other's company. Weeks later, Hannah notices something strange in the algae farm, a weird brown color. Dimitri tells her it's nothing to worry about, but after she leaves, he secretly takes a sample to test it. The results trouble him, but he doesn't tell the others. Instead, he suggests they have a night of gambling and drinking to take their minds off things. During the night, Gavin learns that Hannah was spying for Nebra, the company that funded their mission. Dimitri explains that Nebra changed their contract months ago, demanding that the new algae system be exclusive to dome dwellers, the wealthy elites living in protected domes. Dimitri was ready to accept the deal, but their colleague Danilo refused and planned to release the algae technology to the public. This decision cost Danilo his life. Later, Hannah starts feeling sick and discovers the brown substance is spreading through the algae. At the same time, they receive an incredible message. A group of Nebra survivors has made contact. There are 300 people left in their dome, and their oxygen is running out. They need the algae project to survive. Hannah is shocked that they know about the project, which means the survivors are likely CEOs and their families. Meanwhile, Dimitri checks the algae food gel and finds that the brown contamination has spread to their supplies. He's interrupted by Hannah and Gavin, who tell him about the survivors. They explain that there are openings in the fog, which allowed the dome to send a signal. These openings might also allow a ship to pass through safely. Hannah and Gavin want to rescue the survivors, but Dimitri refuses. The crew took the station's navigation system, Navicon, when they left, so flying without it is suicidal. Gavin argues that it's their responsibility to help, but Dimitri doesn't care. He blames the survivors for Danilo's death. Frustrated, Gavin storms out of the room. Hannah starts feeling dizzy, and Dimitri suspects it's related to the brown goo. He takes a blood sample under the guise of a routine checkup. Hannah tries to convince him to help the survivors, but Dimitri points out that the CEOs only care about themselves. Hannah and Gavin discuss the situation privately and decide to leave with or without Dimitri. They're willing to take the algae samples by force if necessary. To stop them, Dimitri reveals the truth. The brown goo is spreading because Hannah is pregnant. The algae feed on the crew's urine in the station's nutrient cycle, and they're sensitive to hormones. Hannah is in disbelief. Soldiers are supposed to be infertile. Dimitri explains that her fertility chip might have malfunctioned because she's been out of contact with the ground base for so long. The algae will recover, but Hannah's baby won't survive if she goes to Earth. This revelation changes Gavin's mind, and he decides to stay. But Hannah is determined to leave. She spends hours on the simulator, practicing how to land the station through the small gap in the fog. Gavin eventually agrees to go with her, realizing the station is no place to raise a child. Dimitri has no choice but to join them, since he can't survive alone. As they prepare to leave, the shuttle's cooling system fails, causing the gas tanks to overheat. Hannah disconnects the shuttle from the station, letting it float away until it explodes. Now they're trapped in the station forever. Gavin is furious with Hannah for not trying to fix the shuttle first. He sends a message to Earth alone, informing them of their situation. The CEOs respond by telling Gavin to ask Hannah about Icarus. Hannah explains that Icarus was her real mission. Once she secured the algae samples, she was supposed to eject the lab module and send it back to Earth. The module isn't designed for passengers and can't be steered, but Gavin thinks they should try it anyway. 300 lives are more important than 3. Hannah hesitates. Later, while Gavin sleeps, Hannah discovers a trail of algae leading to a panel. She finds evidence that the cooling system was sabotaged. She confronts Dimitri, who admits he did it to delay their departure, not to cause an explosion. Hannah calls him a coward and orders him to prepare the Icarus system. Dimitri knows about Icarus because he studied the station in his free time. He realizes Nebra sent Hannah because they knew a catastrophe was coming and didn't warn anyone. The CEOs had their bunkers and didn't care about anyone else. Doubt creeps into Hannah's mind. When they contact the ground base to announce their plan to use Icarus, Hannah asks to speak to a soldier who worked on the evacuations. She learns that after the soldiers completed their duties, they were left outside the bunkers to die. This means her friend Knopf is dead. Devastated, Hannah breaks down in private. Gavin finds her and tries to convince her to complete the mission, but Hannah refuses. She won't save the lives of people who see others as expendable. Hannah knows the space station is a safer place for her baby than the slums they left behind. But Gavin will never see it that way. To him, changing the world is simple. He's always had his father's wealth to fund his grand ideas. After a long day, Hannah tries to remove the chip from her head and rests, but her sleep is shattered by strange noises. She discovers Gavin has tied up Dmitri and is ready to destroy the lab, with or without her. With no other option, Hannah agrees to join them, but at the last moment she pushes Gavin aside and rips off the Icarus system. She knows how to fix it, but she refuses. Enraged, Gavin storms off, and Hannah frees Dmitri. Later, Hannah finds a message from Earth on the computer. Without listening, she deletes it and shuts off the communicators. She goes to find Gavin, but what she discovers is devastating. Gavin has sacrificed himself. All that's left is his body. After a heartbreaking farewell, Hannah and Dmitri release Gavin's body into space. Now with only 2 of them left, Hannah realizes they need a third person to produce enough oxygen to survive. She decides to fix Icarus, believing Gavin's sacrifice was meant to force them to return to Earth. Dmitri is stunned. He reveals the 3-people rule was a lie to stop Gavin from doing something reckless. Years pass, and Hannah has a child, naming her Knopf after her sister. One evening, Knopf stumbles upon an old radio. Suddenly, it crackles to life with a message from Earth. A group of survivors in the south has emerged from their bunkers and invites Knopf to join them. The message sparks hope, but also raises questions about what lies ahead for Hannah, Knopf, and their future. And what lies ahead of you, my friend, is another nice movie recap. Click on the videos on the right to continue and subscribe for future uploads. Grab your popcorn, enjoy yourself, and see you soon, my friend.